All right, welcome to Ghost Tales. This is a little different kind of episode of Ghost Tales. So, a couple weeks ago for Halloween, we had a segment called Haunted Hampton Roads, where each night of the week leading up to Halloween, we kind of highlighted one area within Hampton Roads that was known for its paranormal activity, things that people saw, heard, etc. So, I decided to go visit those places, and we did a little story each night of the week on those places. It was a lot of fun. It was so much fun actually visiting these places after having guests from these locations on the show with us. I finally got a chance to go out and see them for myself. It was eye-opening and it was so much fun and a little bit creepy in some places because I did feel and hear things that I was not expecting to. So first up, let's start with Surf and Rescue Museum. We're going to run through all of them for you. So if you didn't catch them when they were airing the week of Halloween, we're going to bring them up for you right now. The first one is the Surf and Rescue Museum out at the oceanfront in Virginia Beach. Take a look at this one, and then on the other side, we'll talk a little bit about what we weren't able to fit into the story. At first glance, it's a quaint little lookout post surveying happy beachgoers. But is there more lurking inside than meets the eye?
Dana, the director's cousin, said that she felt something up in the attic touch the back of her neck, and it freaked her out.
Built in 1903, SeaTac Life-Saving Station 2 replaced an earlier 1878 structure. It housed surfmen who would rush out to save crew members after a shipwreck. Their techniques very intricate, and they trained in the building constantly.
Because they were the only line of defense at that point if something happened to a ship out in the water.
One wreck in particular was the Norwegian ship Dictator in 1891. 9 were saved, but Captain Jorgensen's wife and son died. Their bodies later washed ashore.
They did not find the boy right away. Someone else found him, didn't know who he was, buried them in their churchyard, but then they started hearing cries of a little boy looking for his mother.
News of the shipwreck spread. They realized who the boy was, and he was later reunited with his mother, Johanna, buried in Elmwood Cemetery.
Once they were reunited, the crying stopped.
The attic, the coldest spot in the building, is said to be full of activity, and Dina says the police got tired of it.
We used to get reports that the lights were on when we were closed, and they could see people up in the tower, but there was no one there. And no one had been here and the lights weren't on. Police department asked us to please keep our lights on so they didn't have to keep coming answering these calls.
Some believe it's the spirit of John Sparrow, a surfman from 1883, who still keeps watch from the tower. People often report feeling things in the stairwell. In fact, walking up to the attic, I felt something hit my ankle.
That was weird.
Though there was nothing there. Orbs can be seen on surveillance video like this one.
Still looking at the clothes.
Foggy white dots floating around the bottom of the stairs and over by the blue shirts in the gift shop. And other things not caught on surveillance.
The chair was sitting here, there was a backpack on it, and a volunteer and a gal that used to work here were standing over here behind the register, and the chair basically just went up and then back down. And they looked at each other and were like, "Did you see that?"
There are many other stories to be told, and while Dina's not entirely sold on spirits inhabiting the building,
I welcome any kind of, as long as it's non-malicious, no malicious intent, I'm okay with that.
Alrighty, that was a lot of fun, the Surf and Rescue Museum. So something we couldn't get into the script was originally the Surf and Rescue Museum, obviously very old, and in the very beginning, they had these, it was like a barn, and the barn doors would open up so that the horses could carry the boats down to the ocean front so that they could get their men ready and go out and save the gentlemen in the water. So for these huge barn doors to open and close, to close them up, they've got these huge hooks. Like it kind of looks like one of those screwdrivers that you see that comes with IKEA furniture. You know, it's kind of short on one side, long on the other. And they're big bolts that go and slide through holes, and they kind of keep everything bolted closed. So sometimes they would go around and close them all, make sure they were all locked up for the night. And sometimes the next day they would come in and find some of these turned out instead of flush against the doors and they'd be turned out. And sometimes they'd catch them and kind of push them back. And they thought at first that a person wasn't locking up for the night or coming in later and turning it. It was really weird. It was kind of unexplained. And sometimes they wouldn't realize it until, when they're unlatched, gravity at some point takes over and they just slam down because they're not locked in position. So they just slam down, make this loud noise, and then they'd go and realize that the bolts were not in place. So they don't know what kind of paranormal activity was causing that to happen. They just know, looking back at security cameras, nobody came in, nobody left, nobody was responsible for moving them. So it's kind of unexplained there. So next we move on to Bacon's Castle, and we're talking a little bit. This was so much fun to go do. Another place just full of history. Magnificent building. Half of it was built in 1665. The other half was built in 1854. And it's just a beautiful building. If you want to go check it out, if you're not interested in the whole paranormal experience, it's still a fun place to go out and check out the history. So here is Bacon's Castle. It was built in 1665 for the Allen family. An addition was built in 1854. You can see the variation in the brick color on the right-hand side. Called Bacon's Castle for Nathaniel Bacon, who led a rebellion in 1676.
Nathaniel Bacon was a young English aristocrat who led this armed uprising of colonists here in the Tidewater region. And it is about 6 months long. They're rebelling against policies enacted by the colonial government.
Though Bacon never lived here, some of his followers occupied the home during the rebellion that saw the burning of Jamestown. But before that, there was another flame in the sky called Bacon's Light.
It was actually a comet that first went over Bacon's Castle, and the light's been seen multiple times. They were standing outside after a revival one night and watched this ball of fire leave the cemetery that's diagonal to us here and fly towards Bacon's Castle.
Making our way down to the basement, we see the original kitchen, what would have been a high traffic area in the 17th century and still today.
We had 2 cameras set up and had a light that had formed in front of one of the cameras on one side and flown straight to the camera on the other side.
Moving up to the second floor, the archives room on the 1854 side has no shortage of activity.
And all of a sudden I hear this female voice coming from the room that we're in now. And I'm looking around and I didn't let anybody in the house. I had all the lights on, doors locked, and all of a sudden a deep male voice answered her. And it scared me. I literally ran out the back door.
Since that first experience, Carson has had more than 300 paranormal experiences in the house, but keeps coming back. But that wasn't the case with one docent when she saw the lady in white.
She happened to look up to the platform and see this lady dressed in full white holding on to the railing. She asked her, "Ma'am, can I help you? We're not open yet. How did you get in?" And the lady dressed in full white just smiled at her and continued to walk up the staircase here.
Police were called, and when they found no evidence of a break-in or the lady in white.
That was her last day that she worked here. She won't come back in the house.
I just had so much fun doing Bacon's Castle. So, something that we couldn't fit into the story here was she was telling us a story. You saw where she heard the voices in the archives room. That's the room that she absolutely hates that room. Sarah was telling us all about it. So in the late 1980s, or maybe the mid 1980s, there was a curator who lived in Bacon's Castle. That was his bedroom, was the archives room. He and his wife slept in there. Their young son would sleep in the room adjacent to it. And she told me that one night, the curator woke up and he heard his son laughing for some reason. And they're really close, the next room. And so he goes in there. He's like, "What are you doing awake? You should be asleep. What are you doing laughing?" And the boy said, "I'm sorry, Daddy. The lady with the white gloves was tickling my feet." So that was kind of, I don't know how much longer the curator stayed after that, but that was, again, that was on the 1854 side of the house with the archives room. And that is the room that Sarah absolutely does not like going into. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll take a look at Ferry Plantation House. Stay with us. Welcome back to this special episode of Ghost Tales. We are talking about the series that aired a couple weeks ago, Haunted Hampton Roads, where every night of the week leading up to the night of Halloween, we went out and kind of shone a spotlight on a different haunted location around Hampton Roads area. And we've talked about Surf and Rescue Museum, Bacon's Castle, moving on to Ferry Plantation House. You've seen Cody Green on the show several times now. We just had so much fun, and I'd never been out to Ferry Plantation House, but it proved a little bit more than I was expecting, and hearing some stuff that I wasn't not expecting. So take a look, Ferry Plantation House. Ferry Plantation House is a sort of calm in the storm for those who know it well.
And most people are like, aren't you scared to death going in there? And I'm like, no, it relaxes me.
Kristen Ellis has written a book on the home's hauntings.
It's super positive. There's just a great feeling in the house, along with the energy. Makes it a completely different type of quote-unquote haunted house.
And Cody Green is able to see the spirits that inhabit. One side of the house is the former Princess Anne County Courthouse, built in 1735. The building is home to 11 spirits, what you might call a full house. One of them is a 5-year-old girl, Bessie, who died in 1865.
One of the guests and then another visitor that came in were both sensitives, meaning they could see our spirits. And they said that while we were talking, I saw their eyes follow, and they said that Bessie came into the room and immediately saw it was full of people and came and stood right behind my chair, like a little kid. Like she was comfortable with me, but kind of like peeking out just because she was shy around them.
Cody once spent the night on an air mattress with his paranormal investigation team and met with a rather mischievous spirit.
It was like 4 a.m., just getting to sleep, and I feel myself raise up and lower down. It happens again, and I shoot up, and we heard the giggle, and the people in the next room who were in there heard the giggle too. One of our spirits, Stella, thinks it's hilarious. Every time she stepped on my air mattress, I rose up.
The spirit Henry is the protector of the house and former slave on the plantation.
He was very loved by the family. They actually gave him a room in the house after the Civil War ended.
His room at the top of the house is one you must ask permission before entering to show respect.
It was my team's first time here. So I opened the door, I was like, Henry, James is gonna bring a piece of equipment up, all right? Come on up. And James' eyes got big, and they went running up there looking for a speaker, moving everything out of the way, thought somebody was messing with him.
And I may have heard him on our visit.
Right here on Witch Cat, right across from you, Witch Cat, right across from the hospital.
Did somebody just say hey? And with 11 spirits roaming around, it's enough to turn any skeptic into a believer.
And he and the person he was with went up to the nursery and then immediately came down really quickly, and they're asking me all of these questions. And I was like, why? What happened? Why are you asking me all these questions? And he said the door to the nursery closet just completely swung open. And then he got real close to me. He said, this house will make a believer out of you.
So that was a lot of fun. So I leave it up to you. Did I really hear something or did I not? It was very, very strange. But I remember being in that room. Cody was talking. He was explaining something, and he was kind of standing over here from me. We had Kevin was the photographer that day. I love Kevin. He's so awesome. He was standing over here right next to me. And then Kristen was kind of adjacent to me. And when I heard that person just say, hey, it sounded like it came from behind where Kevin was standing. But when we listened back on the sound, it sounded like it was coming from Kristen's microphone, or very near Kristen's microphone, which was on the opposite side of the room. So it was really, really a little unnerving the rest of our visit there to Ferry Plantation House, but it was very neat. I did like visiting that house. I felt very warm and very kind of inviting there. It was a little freaky, but not scary. So anyway, we're moving on to the Wells Theater, which has a ton of history. 1913. I just saw a production of Emma there, and if you haven't been, I definitely recommend you going to see just anything at the Wells Theater. You will enjoy just sitting there and soaking in the ambiance. Here, take a look. This is the Wells Theater. Built in 1913 by Jake and Otto Wells, it was originally a vaudeville theater. In the 60s and 70s, it became an adult movie theater, and then
in the 1980s, our current board, they started a fundraiser to bring this theater back to life and renovated the theater in the 80s, and we started 47 seasons ago.
The Virginia Stage Company now calls it home, but they have to share it with some otherworldly characters, like the one they call Boots.
He was believed to be trampled in a fire escape from the third balcony.
However, they say the young boy is spending his afterlife being a bit of a trickster.
He is a little boy who lives up in my costume stock, which is way at the top of the theater on the third balcony. He likes to play games. So he'll hide pieces that my staff is looking for, and then I'll go up and he'll just put it out in the middle of the aisle or pull it out from a rack so that it's right there as soon as I walk in the door.
And they believe a former sailor also met with an untimely end while working the ropes and pulleys in the fly system above the stage.
And the story is that Ned was leaning over to check out one of the lovely actresses, fell and got tangled in the ropes. Ned now is our on-stage ghost that when things are not going quite right with something, it's like, hey Ned, help us out here. Ned is, I think, mischievous, but ultimately a theater lover.
Speaking of theater lovers, they say a former actress can often be seen lurking in the second balcony, the famed Lady in White.
Oftentimes from the stage, there'll be just a, what is that out of the corner of your eye? And there'll be a sort of flash of white.
Similar to what I might have seen during our interview.
I was freaked out a little bit because I'm pretty sure I just saw something white float, but I can't tell because the light is right there.
I know. It's like, wait a minute, what's the...
Really, I thought I saw something moving, and now I'm a little freaked out. Okay.
But sometimes they say she'll make an appearance to watch over the production of a show.
For Beatty, who was playing Scrooge, looked up and actually saw someone, turned to, hey, look, and she was gone.
Giving a whole new meaning to the ghost light left on stage, a tradition in all theaters.
You have a tremendous amount of life that is brought to life on stage, and I think that energy just sticks around.
Yes. Love the Wells Theater. It's so much fun. Oh my goodness. And they love talking about the ghosts because they say they will come out if they hear people talking about them. And they really assumed the Lady in White would have loved coming out and looking at Emma because of the period costumes, obviously. And I went and saw Emma. It was a great production. If you were able to go and see it, you'll know what I'm talking about. It was so much fun to go see that. Very unexpected, kind of how they portrayed it in very modern style. It was very fun. Next, I think they have coming up a Merry Little Christmas Carol and or a Merry Little Carol. I can't remember which one, but they talk about bringing into the story, incorporating the ghosts that they have at the Wells Theater. So that should be a lot of fun to go see. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Fort Monroe. Tons of stuff going on there. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Ghost Tales, wrapping up this special episode where we are kind of highlighting the Haunted Hampton Road series that aired just a few weeks ago. It was so much fun. I really wish it could go on forever because I loved visiting these places. They just were so incredible to go be in that space and kind of take in the ambiance, take in the environment. And it was just so neat being there apart from the paranormal aspect of things. But right now we're going to go into Fort Monroe. Tons of history here. I've never been before. It's up in Hampton. I know it's a trot for some folks, especially if you live out in Virginia Beach, but it is such a neat place to go and just drive around. And I did not realize that people are still living on that property. And the houses there are just gorgeous to go look at if you're interested in architecture at all. And so much history. Just, I mean, you can feel it just walking around, and it's really incredible. So without further ado, here is Fort Monroe. There's more than 400 years of history at Fort Monroe.
So this land has been inhabited for thousands of years, even before the English settlers came here in 1607. And so the native people that inhabited the area around this space would come here, hunt, gather, fish. In 1607, Captain John Smith landed here 2 weeks before he went to Jamestown. And in 1609, the first fort was built here, and that was Fort Algernon.
The first landing of enslaved Africans in North America was at present-day Fort Monroe in August of 1619. The fort, as we know it today, began being built in 1819.
With all of the different people and activity that's been here, it's not surprising that we find the ghost stories and the stories of those who have come before us.
Among the ghosts they say wander the grounds is one of literary repute. The spirit was said to be seen in the lower dwelling of this home, one of the oldest on the grounds.
The young boy that lived in the bedroom kept coming to his mother and saying, "There's a man in my closet, there's a man in my closet." And they decided to go through the museum, which is directly below us. And they were walking through the museum, and there was an Edgar Allan Poe exhibit. And right about eye level to the boy, there was a ghostly sketched image of Edgar Allan Poe. And the little boy pointed to that and he said, "Mommy, Mommy, that's the man in my closet."
People also claim to have seen him on the veranda at the Chamberlain Hotel, where he used to give poetry readings. Not too far away, the ghost of Abraham Lincoln is also said to have been seen.
This is where the heaviest concentration of unexplainable tales takes place here at Fort Monroe, is right behind these houses.
This is Matthews Lane, or what locals call Ghost Alley.
You have our famous Lady in White is our most infamous ghost. She's been seen by hundreds of people over the years.
It's believed the Lady in White was killed by her Army officer husband for having an affair with a younger soldier. They say she wanders the lane in a white nightgown searching for her love, but she's not the only reported supernatural being.
You can hear horse and buggies go down this alley. You've got a man who walks along and vanishes. You've got all kinds of stories that happen in this particular area for some reason.
Over at the Craven Clinic, later known as Fort Monroe Hospital, patients who perished might still linger.
Yeah, when we walked down the hallway, the television was off, and when we went back, the television was on.
But he says for all the mysterious and otherworldly phenomenon, nobody ever comes to harm.
We like our ghost family.
All right, we had so much fun at Fort Monroe. Something we couldn't fit into the story was in the basement that happened there. They had a contractor come in for water damage. So after they pumped out all the water, they'd set up all these fans to dry it all out. So they set up the fans, they kind of left, they locked up. The guy came back, all the fans were kind of moved everywhere, all different places, all scattered around. And he's like, that's weird. So he puts them back in place, sets them up again, and leaves for the day. Next day comes back to check on it. This time the fans were unplugged and scattered around. And the contractor was like, what is going on here? He went to the property manager and he's like, what's the deal? Somebody's coming in after us and moving everything. And the property manager goes, nobody's been in there since you were in there yesterday because we lock it up after you leave. Nobody's been in there. It is just insane. So anyway, it's lots of fun. I highly recommend you checking out all these locations because they're just so much fun. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Ghost Tales. We'll have another scary episode for you next week. Good night, everybody.